Hey guys, so we're going to be doing the complex brush fly. It's pretty quick pattern to do once you've got your brushes sussed out. Now you can either use a dubbing loop as well, a bit more difficult to be fair, but it can be done. I tend to use a brush making table that I got from J-Vice. Material wise, it's pretty easy to do. It's for the tail, it's Ostrich herl, Mirage flashabou, bit of white yak, moving on to a little bit of craft fur in there. Then you've got craft fur, Artic fox, and grey yak at the head, and throughout the brush you've got a bit of pearl angel hair and holographic silver. The eyes are Pro Sports Fishers tab eyes, reinforced with a bit of Raidzap flex. You've then got the yellow spot is just a marker pin which I added afterwards. I didn't actually do it when I was doing the video. The hook is an ahrex SA220 in a 1/0. I've tried this for sea bass. Now again, this style of fly you can tie anything from I do them up to an 8/0 actually. 6/0 for GTs would be the one I do most often. I used to before COVID hit and travel restrictions and whatnot. It can be scaled down and you can basically do any size you want really. Complex brushes are not a new thing. Use them a lot in freshwater, I know. But this is for salty patterns. You can use whatever you like in the brushes themselves. Another good head material would be the likes of EP fibers or funky fiber, both very similar products. As it trims quite nicely, you can swap out the Artic fox for that as well. Craft fur, again, very good. If you're wanting a slightly less dense head, craft fur, extra craft fur instead of Artic fox works very well as well. Eye wise, you can literally use whatever eyes you like the tab eyes because it helps keep the shape of the head, as you can see, or JC jungle cock, real or fake. I tend to use fake just because it's easier to get hold of and much more uniform with the amount of flies I tie. I'd be burning through the JC capes, and fry prices would be astronomical. But yeah, hope you enjoy watching. Keen to see you guys own patterns with it. Again, like I say, you can swap out materials for anything you want. You don't even need to have the ostrich in there. I just like it especially for the sea bass patterns. Don't really know why. Lots of extra movement, I suppose, but yeah. Anyways, hope you enjoy watching, and yeah, any questions, drop us a message or a mail, and I'll try to answer them as much as possible. Alright, thanks. To measure how long you need your brush, so basically I take a piece of chenille, make just a little mark on it, and then place the mark just in line with the hook point, and then you wrap. Now, because you're going to want denser towards the head, the tail will start as looser wraps, so you leave a bit of a gap. Alright, and as you get towards the head, you start to minimize the gap. Okay, then you make another little mark, unwind it, and that will be the length of the brush that you need. So if I have my ruler here somewhere, so as I said before, this is an ahrex 1/0. If I measure that up against the ruler, which I don't think you can see, 6.5 centimeters is how long we're going to make the brush. Alright, so to make the brush, I'm going to start with some I think it's 0.2 wire, and I'm using the J-Vice brush table for this guy. A little bit stiff. before I lay it down, I need my dubbing wax. So just lay a little bit of dubbing wax on that. Now I'm not going to do the whole thing because I'm not going to be building a massive brush. But what you can do is you can build multiple brushes on the same wire. So I've just added a little bit of a wax to about 10 centimeters there. Now the J-Vice brush table, loosen that up a bit more so it lays flat. The J-Vice brush table has these little 2 centimeter markings, so I know exactly how long I'm going to build it. Now I'm going to start with a bit of ostrich. So 10 or 15 strands, I suppose it's in there. About 2 centimeters off the whatchamacallit, off the spine of the feather. Now obviously when you wrap this, that's the length that's going to be out the back of your fly, so that's about 12 centimeters or so. You can trim off the butt ends if you want as well, but it's not going to make a difference. Now one of the things is to mess around with your layers and how you lay the fibre out, because this is a complex brush, if you put ostrich all the way to the end of your brush, because don't forget we need about 7 centimeters, which is a little bit less than 4 of these squares. If you have ostrich all the way to the front, you're going to have ostrich sticking out all the way along the whole fly. So you generally want it on the back part, so the first sort of 2 centimeters ish. So this is a bit of white yak, real yak that is, not the fake yak. And again, you don't want this too long. This will be about 10 centimeters. Now again, you just want this to help build the tail. So you pre-taper the ends once you've cut them, and it makes it, what, about 15 centimeters. But on the yak, you're going to place it over the ostrich and the middle of the fibre. So if you've got a 10 centimeter fibre, 5 centimeter would be the middle, so that is where you'll place it. Now as I'm building it, I'm not laying this all down in a clump. I'm literally pulling out a few fibres at a time and just laying them down. Now again, you don't want this too heavy, because when you wrap it, if there's too much bulk at the back, you end up with a really bulky fly. But this is going to be quite a streamlined looking pattern after it's been wet a few times. So, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Then it's a little bit of flash in the tail as well. And again, you'll lay the flash at the halfway point, like so. And then we need a little bit of craft fur in white, just to make the transition. So again, it's not a big bit of white to pull out the underfur. It's not a big bit of fluff. And I'm going to lay it, I don't know if you saw, but up to the halfway point I've got the white yak as well, and I'm just going to lay the craft fur. So there's about 3 inches on one side, 1 inch on the other side over the top of that yak, and just next to the ostrich fur, so they're not together. Then we are going to add a bit of bulk to the head. I've got a bit of a Arctic fox, because I like Arctic fox and brushes. And again, this is the white, because there's not going to be huge amounts of colour on this one. Again, you can swap these out for anything that you want really. I'm just going to brush brush this so it's no tangles. And again, we're on the getting towards the head now, so I need to scooch that back just a touch. I'm going to lay the Arctic fox on there as well. It's actually a bit long, so I'm going to trim that shorter. Again, you want a bit of a step down to the head. I'm getting a bit long there, so we're going to have to tighten up all that. Right, and last but not least, grey yak. Okay, not huge amounts because we're making a golden grey here, as a lot of people know or may have noticed. I tend to use a lot of golden grey patterns for sea bass. So now, because this is a head, you're going to want it a bit denser. We're going to blend the first bit into the Arctic fox. The brush is actually going to end up about 8 centimeters, but that's not too bad. And again, putting it on the 50 mark. Now, you don't want to go, when you're putting your materials in, you want to keep the density of materials pretty even throughout the fly. Bit of angel hair in pearl across the back there. You can put that anywhere because it's just gonna, a lot of it's gonna tear out anyways when you're brushing it. Bit of silver for the head, tear it to make it shorter there, and that's almost the brush done. So we're going to take our wax, and you want to make sure that obviously that's all nice and even. Add a bit of wax to your wire. Don't know if you saw that. Lay it down, 2 wraps, and then with the wire you just make sure everything's nice and straight, nice and even. Probably could have used a bit more grey in there, but it doesn't matter. Right, drop the table, and then we're going to start spinning. There we go. Again, you just have to make sure it's going to take a while to get it just right. Because of the different densities, the sides will be a lot tighter than the center at first, so don't go wild with a brush just yet. You can just see the core in the wire there starting to tighten. And with the J-vise you've got a lot of play on the spring, so we should be good. And then you just take your brush, just lightly start to brush it out. Spin it a little bit more. Now you'll also get some, whoops, also get a bit of play on the wire. There we go. So when you let go, unwinds a touch. That is your brush right there. And that's your brush. Now you trim it off. Now obviously you can build 2 more flies on the same table, but in the interest of this video and showing what a complex brush looks like, that is it. Alright, pretty cool. Right, so you got your hook, and then this is a 100D gel spun thread, good and strong. Brush doesn't really cut it, or the wire should I say, doesn't really cut it, so it's great stuff. And then I need to put on a bit of this. I've been using super glue a lot, but I found my eyes tend to take strain, so I reached out to Paul Mono because I know he's allergic to most glues, but this liquid fusion, it's good stuff if you suffer so I'm kind of trying to limit the amount of time I use super glue, but he rates us and has flies lots, so I've started using a lot more of it. I've had it in the tying oscillator a lot. So that's your brush right there. I just cut off the tag end, tied in about 1 centimetre of wire. You don't need to use that much. You can fold it back over itself and fold the tag in back to make it a bit more secure, but you shouldn't need to. Right, tie it off there. I'm going to use the rotary part. Now when you're tying in your brush, you need to remember how you laid out your materials. And for starters, you just want to pinch the ostrich so it lays back. Alright, and then you keep turning, pull some of the bits out. As I said, once you've made this brush, it's pretty straightforward. You're basically palmering it. Okay. Novice is handy for this sort of style of fly because you can literally lock it in a 90-degree all the way around as you brush the fibres back with your fingers. Now you're going to be taking the other brush. Oops, I've gone a bit too tight there. Oopsie daisy. Loosen up there. Got a bit excited. Okay, and you're leaving the space towards the back of the fly. Keep it a bit lighter. Got a bit of a tangle there on the angel hair. And then you're tightening up the wraps when you get to the head. The yak. There we go. Messed that one up, so we start again. Went too tight at the back, not loose tight enough in the front. There we go. Now we're talking. When you start to get to the front, you start touching the wraps. Pull it back, pull it back. Keep on pulling it back. There we go. Finished right at the eye. Loosen your thread. Lock it down, make sure everything's forward. Couple of wraps, pull it back so it locks it down again. Go. So that brush won't pull out now. Trim off the tag end. Again, don't use your good scissors for trimming tag ends of wire. Ideally get wire cutters, but let's use an old pair of scissors. Knot there. There we go. Right, looks a bit like a smorgasbord at the moment. And you just take your dog brush and you just start working from the front towards the back, slowly but surely. Pull out all the bits. Ends up looking like that. Brush it back. Okay, it doesn't look like much at the moment, but once you see it in the water, which I hope to get my tank out soon so I can video it for you. just start pulling it back. Pulling it back. Ow. And there we go. And you just take your trit scissors, and you're going to trim the head down a touch. Get that wildness away. There we go. Okay, and you can add eyes if you want. I tend not to. Again, you can swap out the materials, like so, like the yak in there. Just give it a brush every now and then, get all the loose pieces off. Like so, like the yak in there. Nice stiff head, but you could use strong fuzzy fibre as well, would be a good one. SF blends, etc. But I like my yak. Now that would also, the taper's going to take more shape once the fly's been wet, fish for a little bit, so all the materials will relax and you're going to get that nice teardrop shape. You're going to get the ostrich fur dancing around in the tail. Finish off. Now you can stick some eyes on. As I said, I tend to not do eyes. If I'm going to do eyes, I like to put a little bit of JC on there. Actually, I might just put some on now quickly. A bit of fake jungle cock, which I have somewhere here. One of the big ones. Actually, use some of the Pro Tab eyes. See the Pro Tab eyes? They're kind of nice on it as well. Just take one, lay it down, 2 wraps to hold it. Now with these, you're going to need to reinforce them with a bit of UV glue. Which I'll show you in a second. Just line them up. Make sure that they're even Stevens on that. Trim off the tab. Make sure I haven't messed it up, which I haven't. There we go. Tie it off. If you want to go super fancy, you can also put some peacock herl over the top. But to get them to stay put, need to use a little bit of Flex UV on there. Cooked up there. It's quite cold in here. So just run a little bead of UV Flex over the tab eye. Like so. Run it down the tab so it joins up with a thread. Spin it to get it even. It's one little ostrich hole that's annoying me there. There we go. Nice bit of flex on that. A little bit of thin UV just to seal off the head. Give that to soak in for a second. Spin it to even up the light. There we go. That's your fly done. Give it a last minute trim there. stragglers. And that's it. That's your complex butterfly. And it can actually be done any size you want, really. Do them up to 6/0 for GTs, but this is for my own bass box. Pretty quick tie once you get the dimensions and stuff right. So, thanks for watching. Do another one another day. Cheers.